Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and series and decide which movie went halfway around the world, spent a fortune, did terrible things, all for nothing. I'm your host Griner, and joining me...
I'm Luke Morgan, and you mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
Oh, let me go, man. Oh, let me go.
All right, we're doing three movies that might be related. Luke, justify this trilogy for us. We're looking at the three Nolan films: The Prestige, Inception, and Interstellar. Voted for by Luke, proposed as a trilogy, but I would love to hear the justification for that.
Okay, so first of all, obviously, same director, Christopher Nolan.
All right.
Undoubtedly, Christopher Nolan films. You watch these three films, and you know you're watching a Christopher Nolan film. And Michael Caine is in all three of them. But most importantly, I believe the theme that ties all three together, and we will get into it when we discuss each film.
I was going to say, if you say love,
I'm going to punch you in the face.
His love.
No, that's not a thing. That doesn't count.
It is throughout the three films. Obviously, there's Interstellar. I don't even need to start to describe that. We'll get into that later.
No one did that for us. Very clearly.
Inception with Cobb and Murph, and the whole idea of
Cobb and Murph.
Not Murph. Mal.
But I'm glad we got that.
It's Maul. It's Maul.
No, it's actually Maul. It's Maul. You've got to accentuate it.
Okay, it's Maul. Them, and obviously with Prestige, a different sort of love, because what is love if not obsession? And Prestige is all about obsession and the love of the applause.
I think every single movie since the dawn of time has love as a theme, though. So I'm not.
Really?
That's not cutting it.
I don't know. Conan, you watched these films. Did you not feel a similar sense of he's got a vision? I would say this is more like a trilogy than the Frontier trilogy.
That's the stupidest thing anyone said to me.
Why isn't this more movies then? Because I feel like he has a vision in Tenet. I feel like he has a vision in Memento.
I feel like if we're going to do Michael Caine, this should be a sextology with the Batman films, because they feel like Nolan films.
But we've already done them.
Well,
now we're discussing part 2. Sextology.
Isn't
One
he in
movie
any other?
was in the middle of them, but sure.
He's not in Dunkirk, and he's not in Tenet, I don't think.
No, he's not. Yeah, okay, it is just these 6. Just these 6.
Yes.
So here's my theory of why it's a trilogy, right?
Okay, please.
This trilogy, and I say that loosely, reflects his entire growth as a filmmaker. So we see him in 3 parts. We see early Nolan in his, exploratory phase, where he's trying to uncover the balance between spectacle and storytelling. We see him.
He's trying to get the applause. He's trying to
get the applause.
What will make people...
That is fully... No, we'll go into that. I have a whole theory written down. I have a whole little essay. There's Inception, which is him basically finding that perfect unity, that great moment of style and substance, where every director strives for. And then you've got the beginning of the fall into what I call is Nolan's shit phase.
But wouldn't Memento, Inception, and Tenet be a better 3 to show the 3 phases of Nolan?
There's numerous better versions of this trilogy. Tenet fits better as well.
Tenet fits better than The Prestige.
Yeah. We could have done Tenet, but I feel like Prestige. I don't know. I feel like these 3 films. It is a much better movie. I did not want to watch Tenet again, anytime soon. So that's really part of my reason. But yeah, obviously this is 3 films of a quadrilogy if you include Tenet as well.
Oh goodness! All right, let's move on. You guys ready for some stats?
Yes. Stats.
All right, The Prestige had a budget of $40 million, made $109 million worldwide. Inception, $160 million budget, made $836 million worldwide. And Interstellar, $165 million budget, $773 million worldwide.
Ooh.
On the critical side, we've got IMDb ratings of 85 for The Prestige. 8.5. 8.8 for Inception and 8.6 for Interstellar. These must be the highest rated 3 films we've done on this podcast. Does Lord of the Rings rate higher than them?
Lord of the Rings would be higher.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They're like,
yeah.
No, but they're all like in the top 20 of the IMDb top
Yeah.
30. The IMDb demographic is weird. Like you get some trends that that just don't fit any other pattern. And Nolan fanboys definitely.
Do you
live
have
on
Rotten
IMDb.
Tomatoes stats there?
I don't have them handy. I try not to visit that website.
Let me just bring them up quickly. Rotten Tomatoes Prestige is 76%, which
I know that.
Inception is 87%, and Interstellar rounding it out at 73%.
And its Metascores are like 66, 80 something, and 74. So the Prestige, I think, is
wow.
The Prestige is the lowest out of all of these, I think, in every way, right? No, we're not getting into quality. That's
right. Okay. I was going to say
in terms of general reception.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Just like, do you think it's because it was early Nolan days? I don't know. Like, what's
because Memento is Memento is really high. I was surprised looking this up that the Prestige had such a sort of. I mean, 66 is still pretty high, but it's a low Metascore for a Nolan film. And I was surprised that a lot of people didn't seem to like it. Like a lot of critics at the time seemed to kind of dismiss it.
Yeah. Like at the time, I felt like it kind of flew under the radar. It wasn't a big, a big blockbuster like Nolan films are today, obviously. Especially because he had started Batman by that point. Like you'd think his name would draw a crowd.
But I think it's like we talked about with Batman. Batman Begins was a kind of a risk. Like people didn't know who he was that much. He wasn't the household name he is now. And that movie definitely earned him some credit, but I think it was still people were just like, "Oh, Batman's cool again." I don't think they were like Nolan's cool.
Yes.
It wasn't until the Dark Knight they're like, this dude is who we should all be. We should all make films. This dude is the Elon Musk of the film industry.
Don't invoke that name here, please.
So Prestige came out 2006. Batman Begins was 2006 as well.
2004.
2005.
I was like 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. True.
So made this film in a year. Good work. Good work, Nolan. I think I really don't actually know why. I know that a few people I've talked to have been skeptical on this movie, which surprises me. Because in my mind, I was like, Prestige was great. And rewatching it, I was like, Prestige was great. Yeah.
You owned this on DVD, did you not?
I did. Yeah. Let's get into the Prestige, shall we?
Yeah, let's get into the Prestige.
Can we get into DVD sales?
Oh, if you want. If you've got the stats there.
DVDs are cool.
After a tragic accident, 2 stage magicians in 1890s London engage in a battle to create the ultimate illusion while sacrificing everything they have to outwit each other. I freaking love this movie. I own it on DVD.
Such a good film.
I don't even know how I came across it. I didn't know who Nolan was, but I saw this movie and I just loved it. I thought the twist was really cool. And just... I don't know. I really love this movie.
Do you remember seeing it at the movies? Or
I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I did.
No, this was a DVD rental for me as well. Like I came to this after Inception. So I'd watched Inception and loved Inception, and I was a big fan of Batman Begins. I watched Batman Begins when it came out. But like, I don't know, back then I was 13. It wasn't like I was like, oh, who's this director? The only director I knew was Peter Jackson. And so like after Inception though, and I got into more just like watching films and like, enjoying, I felt like films as opposed to blockbuster movies or whatever. Even though Inception is a blockbuster movie as well, if you know what I mean. Definitely. But I went back through his history, saw the Prestige. I'd seen previews for it and seen people talking about it, obviously for years. And then I remember renting it one night and just, I love that. I love that film.
I have this distinct memory of, because my brothers were all into film, and I remember this is back when they were reading the newspaper, like looking at the film releases coming out. And one of them was telling me about this movie. He's like, it's the new film by the guy who made Batman Begins about 2 warring magicians. And that sentence was was just really cool. I was like, Warring Magicians,
You
the
just
guy who
sold
made
me on it
Batman.
again. I'm like, I want to watch it again now.
That's what
That's
I mean.
cool.
And I was super excited. And I remember, but yeah, I only saw it on DVD when it came out. Whether or not that's because it came to our cinema or not, I don't recall. But I don't know if this was a sleeper hit or not. But I feel like it was a pretty small thing. It was kind of like it's like Insomnia. It's this old film that people now know. Oh yeah, Nolan made this other movie, and Prestige is kind of like the awkward brother between his sort of his most famous works. Well, Dark Knight is probably his most famous work, and so this is a film sandwiched between that and sandwiched between his Genesis. So I just feel
Yeah.
like it kind of got overlooked for whatever reason,
Yeah.
which really sucks.
It does suck. And it's like it came out in a weird spot. Like it came out a year after Batman Begins. And obviously the Dark Knight overshadowed it when it came out. You're right. Like it came out in a weird spot in his career. But to me, this might be it's right up there with one of Nolan's tightest stories. Like there's not much fat on this story. There's not many leaps in logic. There's not many plot holes in it. To me, that I can pick at it. Like the other two movies we're about to do, I feel like I could poke plot holes in all day till it looks like Swiss cheese. But this movie, I feel like is tight. It's the twist at the end is like chef's kiss the first time you see it, and even watching it again, like I really enjoy just picking up on the little bits. They literally spell out the whole twist of this movie in the first 5 minutes, talking about magic tricks and that. There's that old Chinese guy with the goldfish bowl between his legs limping around. Yep. He's like he's always doing it, but it's that's the trick. Mate, I don't know. I really really love this movie, and I think like all of that works together really really well.
Just on that note, quickly, all of it, even when the bird gets killed the first time, and he's like, "What happened to his brother?" It's
what
like,
happened to the brother?
They literally tell you.
Okay, cool. I didn't get that, like, because I'd only before this rewatch, I'd only watched the film once. Like, despite loving it, I watched it the first time, loved it, and then just never went back to it. But it's stuck with me, and I really enjoyed it. And then watching it again, and just as soon as that little kid is like, "What happened to his brother?" and Christian Bale just like smirks and like laughs, he's like, "Smart kid." I'm just like, "Oh my god!" There's so many like little hints and like foreshadowing and everything like that. Just quickly talking about like why this movie wasn't like a big hit or a sleeper hit or anything. Do you reckon it's just like the period that it's set in, like that type of London era and magicians? Is it something that could be a massive thing in Hollywood? I don't know if it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, period pieces are hit and miss, hey. But
especially
I think
this like London, I don't know. Like I just know my wife hates this sort of London period, like this old gloomy sort of London. She just won't like she liked the movie, but she's not a fan of this and will avoid movies or TV shows that are in this sort of setting.
maybe, but you get things like Bridgerton, which are like they're very pretty and nice, and they're. But I mean, if you saw this and just saw it's Victorian magicians, I don't know if you'd be like, oh, is it dirty though?
Yeah.
But I do feel like people are generally they look at period pieces and they expect romance. That's not right, but that's how I sort of see it. Generally, when a period piece comes out, it's usually based on a romance. You usually expect like a Shakespeare adaptation or a Jane Austen adaptation, or even things like Titanic, right? That's a romance first and foremost, even though it's the biggest blockbuster of all time. So this, I think, by not having that front and center, might have impeded it. You could be right, but I don't know. But granted, to your point about it being the leanest story, I think that's right, and I think this shows a lot by the fact that this was based off a novel, and so a lot of the great stuff that works in here isn't actually Nolan's doing. Now we're going to dissect his writing plenty more. Don't get me wrong, but obviously now he writes all his own scripts, often with his help of his brother Jonathan.
Yep.
But I do think that writing becomes a big stumbling point for him going forward. Whereas this, I think the Prestige has again it captures perfectly his ability, his talents as a filmmaker, and his ability to like spell stuff out, because there is a lot of exposition in this movie as well. But it works really well with this content and with the plotting. It works well having magicians explaining tricks, right?
Yeah.
Because we're in the
do. It's like
and we're in the dark. We want to know, so they're like discussing how it works. And it's always fun to have those scenes where people talk about, like they discuss a heist and they're like, let's talk about how this heist will work.
Yeah.
It's fun hearing about plans, and that's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
And I think Nolan's ability to just write exposition really clearly and sometimes clunkily actually works in this movie, surprisingly. And his frantic sort of all over the place plotting, like we saw in Memento, is perfect here.
Yes,
It's
it works
so
really well.
good with it's so good with the story. And I don't know if that's in the novel or not, but it's amazing. I think it works so well here, having like 3 time periods. It's never confusing. It's never it never feels contrived or silly. It feels really, I don't know, it feels like it's the way to tell the story because it's based on the emotions of it rather than the plotting of it. And so it tells you the plotting as, we're confronting the past. And Nolan has talents with that stuff.
Mm. Yeah, I like the whole framing of this movie, like seeing the end, seeing Christian Bale in prison and reading these diaries and, them getting at each other through these diaries. Like, it's a really good framing for the story. Yeah, and it works really well with it. He does have a frenetic style in a lot of ways that can make a plot feel really rushed, particularly in some of his other films, and that's one of my big problems with him. But in this, it kind of works because it's all leading up to that point that we've seen already. We know how this movie ends. We need to know how they get there.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, and it works
much like a magic trick. Yeah,
yeah, it works really well.
I love, like, the opening is literally like the drowning, like Hugh Jackman drowning in the thing, and Christian Bale standing there. It's like such a cool opening. Then obviously, Michael Caine saying that speech to what ends up being Christian Bale's little girl, like about the person reappearing again. I love this, touching on the whole sleight of hand, not sleight of hand, sorry, but like foreshadowing and everything like that. Something as well I liked, but I do feel like kind of got I kind of got beat over the head with it, was her saying, like, sometimes you say you love me and you mean it. When she first was saying that, I was like, oh, that's cool, because obviously one of them does mean it and the other one doesn't. But I felt like the amount of times they kept bringing it up where she was like, oh, this time you mean it, this time you don't. I think knowing the twist, like the first time I watched it, I wouldn't have had that thought. But knowing the twist, every time it's brought up again, I'm like, oh, okay, it's a more foreshadowing.
It does belabor the point a little bit that Fallon is Christian Bale, like they're the same person.
What?
Like,
I don't know how I didn't
spoilers.
see that either.
Spoilers.
First time, I'm like, it looks like him with this like prosthetics on. What the hell?
But it also doesn't, right? Because you want to be fooled. You're not expecting any twist. You're like, I want to hear the story, and you see the guy, and he's plump, and he's got.
But I'm like, who is Fallon? Like, who's this dude who like never talks? He's just always just stromping around. I'm like, oh. But
I do love it how he's just there randomly. He's like, here's my best friend Fallon. You're like, that's unhealthy.
Who's this guy? What?
Yeah.
He's staying here and eating some of your food. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
He's our kids. What?
Takes care of your daughter.
Yeah. Speaking of female characters, are these some of the weakest? Like, Nolan definitely has a problem with female characters throughout his career. And I think these ones, like, they don't pass the Bechdel test. Like, they're just pawns for the males in this movie.
I agree in 2/3. I disagree about what's her face, Rebecca. Is it Rebecca?
Christian Bale's wife?
Yes. I really should know. She's a fantastic actress. Sorry, I'm just looking up the actress. Rebecca Hall.
Scarlett Johansson.
No, not Scarlett Johansson. No, she's not used properly in this.
No.
Rebecca Hall, I think she's really good. Now, I think partially that's just because as an actress, she's fantastic. But I think her character is really good in this because even though you're right, she is a pawn for the male character, she just brings a really empathetic performance. She brings a really convincing one about, a young woman in this era who just wants to get married. Or so it doesn't even know she wants to get married, but she gets swept off her feet by this guy.
Yeah.
And she always kind of feels a bit sheepish, a bit reluctant, a bit kind of like, what exactly, I don't fully know what's going on here. And that's because her character doesn't know she's getting played by 2 twins. So
yeah, it works with the women of the time too. They're kind of beneath the men. That I don't need to. I can't know all my husband's business. I'm the homemaker. I'm looking after kids.
I think that works. I think Hugh Jackman's wife, she only has 2 scenes. She's not great. And I think Scarlett Johansson, her character is not. It's just she's not used properly in this movie. I don't know what exactly it is. I don't know if she's miscast or something, but her character is literally a pawn to be played with. And
she's a pawn, and her whole plot revolves around this betrayal. But I feel like she falls for both of these characters far too quickly. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, she's just swept off her feet by both of them almost immediately. Yeah, it's weak.
It is a bit weird, but I don't know. What did you guys think of the 2 main performances about Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale?
They're great.
I love Christian Bale in this. I didn't love Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
that
I don't know.
much.
Christian Bale definitely has an intensity to him that works really, really well here. I don't. Hugh Jackman feels a bit. I don't know.
I don't like Hugh Jackman playing two characters. I don't like the one
Yeah,
that looks identical to him that they just
Yeah.
happen to find in this pub. I don't like that
Yeah.
whole, and I forgot about that. That he's
me too.
I'm like, oh, it's just Hugh Jackman acting drunk. Like I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't mind him in most of the film though. I don't know. It could be more the character that I find interesting, but like I love the whole thing that he never really actually gets to be on stage for the applause. Like he dies for it every time. And like, you know, the clone version of him then gets the applause every time.
But
He
is
never
that him?
gets that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Like I think Hugh Jackman has an interesting he has a showmanship to him.
He
right?
has a
Like,
showmanship, you're right.
Yes.
But it's everything
He's a-
outside of that I think is weak.
Yes, and it's kind of fitting for that character that the character is a showman so much. But there's
Yeah.
just something
Yeah.
his performance in this. I'm like, he's just not. There's just something about it the whole time. I was like, I just don't love this. But Christian Bale he has an intensity, and he does feel like he's playing like a character with two sides. And then you realize, oh, he is playing two sides.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman's time with Tesla, like that whole section of the story, I fall asleep in nearly. Like he's just Hugh Jackman's not doing anything for me. Andy Serkis is showing up, but he's not doing a whole lot.
And David Bowie.
I love David Bowie when he's
Yeah,
on screen.
he's really good.
For the three scenes. He's like perfect casting. Like that is such a good choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. But like the detail in this movie as well. I've forgotten about how good, because I talked about a lot with Pirates of the Caribbean how good it was to see dirty characters. And similar to almost everyone just looks kind of filthy and tired and sweaty and gross. And I don't just like the period detail for a fairly small film. It really helps. I think it really creates the illusion of this place. Like everything feels convincing. It feels really slummy. He just creates this world, right, where magic is like this sought after commodity. Everybody is checking out magic shows, which is really cool. And like Nolan's a great world builder.
Failing magicians can buy houses in 1890s London. Did you know that? That really sets the time period for me.
Yeah, bought a house.
Different
over
time, huh? Jinx.
I was gonna say with touching on like Christian Bale's wife, the argument that I think it's technically Fallon that Fallon has with her before she takes her own life is brutal. Like when they're just yelling at each other and screaming, and he obviously and it's great because you can feel Christian Bale as his character is like, I don't love you, but I'm like pretending to be like your husband, but like I'm not that loyal to you, sort of thing. It's really good. It's really good. And yeah, I don't know. I like Andy Serkis. It's a treat to see him in the flesh. Don't see it at all.
It is nice to see him out just actually in front of the camera properly.
Yeah, it's great. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, "Where's my suit?" I don't know.
Right, you can tell he wants to get on all fours and just leap around. It's like,
Running after, yeah.
just talk normal.
Put on a
okay?
voice, yeah.
But I really like the little details of things like how there's the Tesla Edison battle going on in the background.
Yeah.
And you never see Edison. All you see is Edison's goons burn the workshop down, and you see that other scene where they're at a show, and he's like, "There's nothing wrong with this. It's just Edison's smear campaign."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's a nice little like grounds you in the era, and fleshes that out. And this idea of science being magic because we just don't understand it. Like I think it was Philip K. Dick said, "Is like magic is just."
Any advanced enough science is indistinguishable from magic. Like, yeah.
That's it. It plays with it really well.
And it works really well here, yeah. Like, the magical part of this could stick out like a sore thumb, but I think it really works.
And I think, the fact that it has like science fiction in it just seems natural, right? It doesn't jump the shark. It doesn't seem silly here.
Yep.
I think it's like a nice logical next step, which...
If they're both at getting actual gizmos from Tesla and they're increasingly more wild, like there's places this story could go that were really weird, but no, it works where it is. It works really well.
One's throwing fireballs.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. It's
either, I don't know, a funny coincidence or just bad luck that they keep choosing each other to come on stage and be the demonstration. Their disguises keep like you in the random crowd, Christian Bale, come up and oh no, yeah, you've shot me.
There's a couple of moments I was like, how the hell does it... I was hoping that I was hoping for little bits like you'd see him push someone out of the way and walk up, but you never
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. That's what I
Yeah.
was like. Surely he'll walk up anyway, but no,
Yeah.
he gets picked out. I'm like,
No,
okay.
Slip the stagehand, some money or something to pick him or something like that. Like
Yeah.
there's a few ways they could
Exactly.
have justified that, but they don't.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like Christian Bale is the hero in this story? Is he the good guy? Or are they just both bad guys? Is this just a tragedy?
The first time I watched it, I was supporting Hugh Jackman.
I think the show, they want you to, right? Like,
Yeah,
they want you
because
to
his
right
wife
to the
gets
end.
killed. Like,
Yeah.
because of Christian Bale's mistake. So you sort of have that empathy from for him near the start.
Yeah.
You see him get killed at the start, like drown and everything like that. I don't know, and I think it feels like Christian Bale's more of like the rip people off sort of magician. I don't know, like Hugh Jackman is the showman, so it's sort of like this thing like Christian Bale's undermining and this sort of thing. But yeah, by the end, you can't support Hugh Jackman as a person. It's like kidnaps his daughter, like takes everything he owns, and it's pretty messed up.
Well, yeah, Hugh Jackman's like played as he's the American, so he's a bit suave sounding. Christian Bale is playing like the Cockney sort of. Well, he's not
Very
Cockney,
yeah.
Like the gutter, the rough sort of working class. There is a clear sense of is the presentation of that division, and you are meant to, I think, empathize more with Angier. But I think that's the trick that the pulls, that it creates that, and then it turns it around and goes, no, he was actually the monster the whole time. And you're like, that's kind of cool. But then they're both monsters. It's just Borden. One of the Bordens has some redemption to him. It's a really nice payoff, because it's like as you learn the truth about the crime, you also start to you realize that the bad guy was the good guy. It's a nice sort of, it's a tragedy, but it's also not. It's like an inversion of it in a way.
Is Michael Caine the true bad guy? He's supported both of these men at various points.
He is too wise for his role as just like a huckster on the side. He's so full of wisdom. He's like, I'm going to help all of you guys till the ends of the earth. I'm like, get a better job, dude.
Yep. That's the thing. Like, obviously, over the course of the movie, Hugh Jackman sort of changes, and you change his perception of him. Like with him yelling out, like, "I don't care about my wife. I care about his secret." It's just like, okay, yeah, he's really not the good guy anymore. He's like pretty much a dirtbag. I love the abracadabra with right at the end. It's so just, and then that reveals itself with the ending. Like all the bodies in the water, that like final shot thing is that's what I've remembered all the years. Like after watching that first time, it's just always that final shot of all of them lined up. It's so cool.
Great, yeah, it's a great payoff. But then it's got the absolute worst credit song I've heard.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that, eh?
It's just funny. I heard that. I'm like, why do I hate this song? And I looked it up, and it's Radiohead, and I was like, I hate Radiohead so much, and this only confirms it. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to the next movie in this trilogy that continues directly on after this? Inception.
The direct sequel.
Michael Caine. He's the link.
Caine, he was like, I got to get away from London.
He's like 600 years old.
Nobody can know about the immortality machine I bought from Tesla.
Yeah.
A thief who steals corporate secrets through the use of dream-sharing technology is given the inverse task of planting an idea into the mind of a CEO, but his tragic past may doom the project and his team to disaster.
You guys remember... Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, Dream Assassins, what a cool idea.
Also, do you remember the build-up to this film? Do you guys remember the hype?
Yep.
It was monumental. I just remember everyone was excited.
Did you guys both watch this in the theater, like in the cinema? So, two things. This film, I adore this film. This is like one of my favorite movies of all time. I watched it a couple of days ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it or listening to the score since I watched it. Like, I love this film. I have always had it as my number 4 behind the 3 Lord of the Rings films. Like, it's the Lord of the Rings and then Inception. I love this film so much. And I've, like, famously, someone asks me this question. It's not like anyone will ask me this question, but when they do, instant answer is this is the one movie I wish I'd seen in the theater.
Oh, you never saw it in the theater?
I didn't see it in the cinema.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
I remember the hype around it before then. I just didn't get a chance to, and just then eventually got it on Blu-ray when it came out and watched it on Blu-ray. Months later, didn't have anything spoiled for me or anything. I wasn't much on the internet back then, but yeah, I wish even now I'm like, oh man, I wish they just would play Inception one weekend. I could go watch it in the cinema. Like I feel like it'd be such a cool film. But that cinema experience I think would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, I
really
remember
cool.
enjoying it.
Yeah. Like just in a cinema with this soundtrack and just and there's a great building of tension towards the end of this movie that works really, really well with a group of people, I feel like.
Yeah. And that's Nolan makes like cinema experiences,
Yes.
right? He's one of those handful who's like, you need to see everything at the movies.
Yeah.
And the whole combination of Hans Zimmer and everyone else, he makes it like it's an experience more than anything else. But yeah, this movie, I always think part of me is always like, is Inception like the worst overrated film ever? But then I watch it again, I'm like, nah, Inception's pretty great, hey.
Yeah, I always have a feeling that it's overrated as well. And then I watch it and I'm like, nah, I can't be mad at you. Like, I really enjoy this movie.
I rewatched it already once this year because it was just on TV. And I just ended up sitting through like 2.5 hours of it. I was like, that movie's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, I just like Inception.
Or a movie that's like 2 hours and 40. I'm like, oh yeah, I can watch
yeah.
Inception, and like,
yeah,
I sit through it and be like pretty captivated throughout. So
yeah, and like it's definitely got a lot of problems, but just like we talked about with Dark Knight, the heights it reaches overshadow the depths that it doesn't.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Is it even worth going through and talking about the plot holes in this movie?
No,
Probably
I
not,
got
yeah.
like, I think this actually, like when I write notes for movies, it's usually just like one or two lines that are just like, oh, this happened, like to remind myself to talk about it. This, I wrote more notes than any film I've ever done. I just like kept just writing things because I love this movie. Like, I love the intro. Like I feel like it does a great way of like introducing like this world and the mechanics. Like, like this is how dreams work. They, he shoots his friend, who for some reason I'm forgetting all the names now. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shoots him, and then it's like, okay, now you see him wake up. This is how the kick works. Like this whole intro.
And he's the second level dream. Like they introduced that too, which is
it's not like that's a middle reveal where it's like, oh look, there's a dream in a dream. They already start with that, and it's like, look, we're already 2 levels deep. And I don't know why, but I love Leo with a silencer gun. It's like all espionage,
and he's catching the bullets. Yeah, it's
so good. It's so cool.
Catching the shells. Yeah, it's really good.
It's also so pointless in a dream. So unnecessary.
Feels a bit silly,
but I love it.
It's great. I love it.
Like the casting of this movie, I think saves it so much. Like, may not saves it, but
what a cast!
It's a fantastic, and things like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? Arthur Exposition, as we'll call him from now on, because his entire role in the movie is to just explain stuff. But I think because it's got him, and he's such a talented actor,
he does it good.
He's suave, he's charming, he's a voice of authority, and just like, yeah, no, that's tell me more blatantly like clear information, please. I enjoy listening to you talk. And like Tom Hardy is just. Oh, he's so wonderful.
He's using his normal voice. It's great.
And his normal face.
Which feels like he's doing an accent. Like, I've seen Tom Hardy do so much. I'm like, oh, look, he's British in this one. But even like with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I'm just going to probably say all the actors' names. But like the scene, with Ariadne, who like
terrible name.
Gets killed. Yeah, there's not many great names. Gets killed, and then like she wakes up and she's like, oh, freaking out, and he's like trying to describe what a totem is, like do exposition for the totem, and she's just like freaking out, and he's like, anyway, a totem. Like gets straight to it. He's like, this is what you got to remember all these key points. But he does it so good that it's just like, yeah, I like him describing what a totem is and showing his one off, and you can't touch it. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. It's such a classic of like a heist film, right? Like you bring in the new guy, you explain all the rules. I love how like everyone's got like a code name or a class. It's like he's the forger and the architect and the thief.
Architect.
Like it's so much fun. Like they're getting the gang together. Everyone's got their roles.
the tourist.
right.
It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's the tourist.
Yeah.
It's because I remember all them posters. It was like the architect, and it was like a picture of
Yeah, that's
him,
right.
and like the tourist. Um, Even like in the opening, the whole thing with like the polyester rug, like where you realize, like the feel of it, and it's like that's what catches him onto that. It's like I don't know. There's so much cool stuff in this film. I gush over this film every time. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's you can do. Yeah, there's a lot of just like great ideas, even for one-off scenes. It's like that's a cool idea that we should put in, and I
Yeah,
think you can tell. That's why we should have talked about Tenet because Tenet does the same thing, but it ballses it up real
Yeah.
bad.
They're very
But yeah,
like it's easy to draw a lot of parallels between this movie and Tenet, I feel like. And
it truly is. They're a good duology we could do one day.
mm,
But yeah, it's like all these last little features or details where it's like that's how it would work with a dream. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But but there is a problem. I think we need to talk about the problems with the writing and the dialogue. Most notably, Nolan can't use names. Christopher Nolan cannot name characters for some reason. What the hell kind of name is Cobb?
yep.
that's a great.
Mole.
Mole. What the hell
Mole.
kind of name is Mole?
I need you to say it like you got marbles in your mouth. Mole. Like I don't
Mole.
like. What was the direction there? I don't understand that name at all.
No one does. Leo doesn't.
No.
Like Ariadne is a reference to some old goddess of
Yep.
somewhere. Eames is a name, but it's just very obscure and kind of difficult to hear. I don't know why he can't name characters. Right? It's a weird quirk, right?
It is weird.
Like I'm not
It's
sure if it's intentional.
yeah. It really stands out though. Like every time they're saying mole, like I just like is that a name?
Yeah.
It's just a sound in your mouth. It's not a name. Like it's so strange.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it makes me double take every time. I'm like, you could have just called her Jess and like solve that issue.
Yep.
Oh, that's Kate.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh my, yeah, his wife Kate. Like, it just got a simple.
I don't know.
sound.
Is it because it's so different? It's memorable. I don't know. Everyone remembers Mole.
Like, there is that theory that Nolan intentionally screws up the sound in his movies to make you be like, oh, what that was really a thing. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to say that's not true because it could be. Maybe he's like these names are so obscure that people are going to be like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's a weird flex if so. And
Speaking of sound, I think this is one of the only modern Nolan films that I don't have a problem with the sound mixing in.
Mhm.
I feel like Dark Knight Rises shocking, Tenet absolutely terrible,
yeah, mess,
Yeah.
absolute mess.
Interstellar's not too bad. We'll get there.
Yeah,
I don't have a
yeah.
problem hearing people talk in this at all. Like,
No.
or,
No,
I feel like
neither.
it's clear, and I feel like the music's amazing in Inception. Like it's one of my favorite movie scores. Like I'm a big movie score guy. Like I love Hans Zimmer as well, but
Mm.
I love the soundtrack to this movie, and I think it's used so well in so many scenes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you read about people's analysis of it afterwards, and like each layer down in the dream, the tempo changes to match
Yep.
like to be 1/16th of the layer above or whatever. Like it all works. Like that's genius. Like it's really well thought out.
Yeah,
Very very well done.
And it becomes like this incredibly tense atmosphere. It's just like this. It's one note drawn out, and that just feels kind of like disorienting, and
Yeah.
it builds the tension to it. Like this is where Nolan's all of he's firing on all cylinders, and everything's working well. The sound is good. I think the score is probably the best of any of his films. I think.
Yeah.
The works of that. Like the cast is probably the most stacked. It's phenomenal, and like his story and the content. Like it's high concept, and that's who he is now. He's like the high concept guy,
Yep.
but it's done in a way that it is understandable because it's made as a heist film, so you can understand that concept well. It's executed properly, and it works with the emotional core. Like you said, Luke, this movie's about love allegedly, but it spends most of its time exploring like this problem, right? Like Cobb is entirely like, I need to do this for my kid. That's a very easy motivation to understand. Like a father wants to get back to his children.
Yep.
And it really sort of does. It has a nice that ties in well with the whole with his past tragedy with Maul.
Yeah.
But like that all ties in really well with the subconscious, with feelings of guilt, all that stuff, and
Yeah.
like the past, like the layers of where you bury your trauma, your guilt, all that stuff fits really well with the layers of dream. So it's this great it's a combination of execution of high concept with an emotional investment. So you can easily resonate. You can easily be like, I'm along for the ride. Whereas in a certain later film that we may or may not talk about in this podcast, who knows, he doesn't hit that balance.
Yeah, and I think setting it in a dream lets him cover up some of those plot holes we talk about, right? Like, it's a really high concept film, and he sets up these rules, but they don't always work, right? Like, there's plenty of kicks there that don't break people out of the layer above them. Stuff like this, like, they don't need a kick when they're down in the bottom layer because they only need a kick to go up. Anyway, doesn't make it, like, it just doesn't quite make sense. But it's okay because it's in a dream. It's really, really high concept as it is. You're understanding the world as you go. It's only when you like think about it too hard that these plot holes come up. I think in a movie like Tenet, where it's really high concept, but you don't have a dream sequence to kind of wash things away. Things that don't make sense stand out a lot more to me.
It's in reality.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in reality.
It's weird to like associate it with reality because it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, it's such a cool idea. Like you said at the start, Grant, just like going into people's dreams and like being a dream thief, and like the whole thing of this and putting a dream in there is just like one of the coolest ideas to me. And how that works, like, I love, and I sort of get goosebumps every time, just like when, you know, the level above, like the gravity of that situation affects the dream world. Like the hallway scene with Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of my favorite scenes, like the fight scene in the hallway with it turning and twisting, and just you have the slow-mo shot of like him in the car, like moving across, and then it reflects that way in the hallway. It's so cool. The choreography is really, really good.
Yeah. So, but why is it not waitlisted the next level?
Yeah, good question.
Because it's deep sleep.
Plot holes. It's okay. Yeah. We won't pick them apart too much. But you're right. That hallway scene has become iconic. I think the only better hallway scene is in High School Musical 3 when what's his name has his musical number there. It's really good. But you know, look, we'll put this as another
same thing.
There's also the hallway scene from Paprika, which is literally the same scene because this film is very stolen from Paprika. But no
one knows that. That's
exactly the problem.
That's the ingredient that Vision talks about in Avengers. That's all I know.
Paprikash. Yeah, no one knows about it. So Nolan was just like, "Oh, they won't know that I stole that film."
Touching on the emotional like thing you were talking on earlier, I don't know if it's just like unresolved daddy issues I have or anything like that. But this film with Cillian Murphy and his dad, that scene near the end, like when basically, you know, he opens the safe and as that, breaks me every time. I don't know why. If it's just Cillian Murphy's awesome acting, because he's always great. I love him. He's so good. Yeah. But that scene, I don't know. It just breaks me every time. I like end up bloody bawling my eyes out. It's
no, you're right. Like that's thing, the emotional investment works on two levels because it works with Cobb. So he's obviously our protagonist. That's where we're in. But Cillian Murphy is kind of the antagonist to this film because there's not actually an antagonist, which is really interesting.
He's the mark. Like he's the
he's kind of like the guy they have to do the job to, and he's the guy they're trying to stop. So it's this really interesting all of it because Mole is also an antagonist. And, she's got her thing. But Cillian Murphy then has this interesting emotional stuff. And you're right, that's actually the most powerful thing. Like the father-son relationship is really, really poignant there.
Yeah.
That's why it works, man. That's why it works.
And that's the payoff for the heist, right? Like other heist movies, they get, you know, we've got all this money now, but having this big emotional impact as the payoff for the heist, like it enhances the heist almost. Like it's better than I'm rolling around in a better money now. Like but giving us this big emotional payoff works just so well.
Big emotional moment, and you even have like Tom Hardy like watching it happen, being like, okay, yes, like we got it, like it's perfect, like
now hurry the hell up,
call it in, we got it, abort, let's pull out. It's great.
It is.
Even the whole thing, like playing on the uncle with Tom Hardy playing him, you know, I really enjoy that whole aspect where it's like, okay, now we've got to twist that relationship, make him see it from this way. Poor Cillian Murphy, his mind's just, he wakes up like, what the hell was that dream? That was a really emotional roller coaster I just went on. But
a lot of therapy ahead.
Yeah, it's great. I remember the first time I watched it, I forgot that they're on a plane. I just had this thing like where I was sitting here, I was like, oh yeah, the car's like the top layer. Like, and then when it goes back on the plane, I'm like, oh, that's right. Shit, it was one more layer up there. They're on a plane actually this whole time. I forgot, but I think
Yep.
that's the journey you go on with how long it is, sort of thing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's like they say that it's going to be years of time down the bottom stuff. It's
Yeah.
it pays off. And like I love Ken Watanabe in this. Kind of like he's always really really good, but
Is
just
that
having him
Saito?
as yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sort of having him along, and then like he gets shot, and sort of watching that gradually, like that's a really good way to exacerbate the tension.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's gotten shot in one level, you see him in the next level start to feel, and then you see him in the next level again or something. No,
Because
can't
that's what's going to
explain
save
it.
Cobb. Is like if he's gone, like
Yes,
he
yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
know it was a success. So it's like, yeah,
And so once you see it into other dreams, it's like, oh no, he's really dying because he's feeling it everywhere. Like
Yep.
yeah,
it's a very clever tool to have. It's like, yeah, him along for the ride.
Even like the first level where it's raining because the dude needed to pee. Like, I
he
don't know. It's fun.
had that
It's
dream
fun. They have fun
before
with it. It's good.
It's
Yeah,
great.
cool.
Um,
Yeah. We should talk about Michael Caine. He doesn't have much to do here, but he's always good as well.
he's the thing holding the trilogy together. So
Yeah, we need
yeah,
to mention that, all right?
he's
He's the
good.
babysitter.
Yeah, babysitter. He tells Dom to come
Who
back
is
to
looking
reality.
after all these kids? These kids at all this time?
The
Question.
bodiless and faceless grandmother
Yeah.
that doesn't talk to
I
anyone.
mean, the kids are faceless also, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yes,
children.
they are.
You see them at the end, don't you?
But are they his kids?
Is okay. So yeah, the ending. Like
Sure.
what was the ending like in the cinema? Like was it? Do you remember
I
that?
remember
or-
people audibly going like gasping,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
wanting to know what the end was. And even my wife was like, "Why do they do this in movies?" I'm like, "It's so you talk about it afterwards. Like it's fun to have an unresolved ending in some ways."
And I still
Yeah.
speculate on it. Every time I watch it, I feel like I change my mind. Like when I watched it the other day, I was like, "Nah, it's reality. It's reality." And then just watching it, like one or two videos on YouTube, I'm like, "Shit, how can it be reality? Like that's weird. Like why is these kids not aged and they're wearing the same clothes still from like his last memory of them?"
Yeah.
And
And it's a
didn't
bit weird, and it seems too happy. The ending, like
Yeah.
he wakes up, and it's just like, oh, cool. And it's like you have like this. It reminded me of like a video game ending where you see all the characters and they're all just like nodding to him, like as he like walks through, this dramatic music's playing. It's like, yay, success! Like we won.
I love that scene though, where he comes and he sees all of his friends going through
It's
like customs and
great.
stuff. I'm like, oh, that's really cathartic. I love this.
It feels like this journey that it is just like I put it down straight away. It reminds me of like the end credits of a video game where you see all these characters you've met along the way, and it's like, oh yep, nod to you as well. It's
We all had some good times.
it's good. I love this cast.
I think I remember Nolan coming out at some point and just saying, "No, it's reality. Like there's no twist there." I don't know if he's just trying to fuel the flames a bit more, but it's it's an interesting ending.
I thought I remembered a quote he said where it's like, what matters is that like Cobb is is where he wants
That's
to be.
Cobb's reality.
Yeah, okay.
And so he's like,
That's
even
what
if
it
it's
was.
reality, even if it's reality or not, he's like, that's what Cobbs wants to be. So he's happy there, and like Cobb gets what he wants essentially. I mean, I really don't think there's meant to be. I think this ending was made, very clearly as like, I'll talk about this for years, and sure
Yeah.
enough, we are like
Here we are, 10 years later.
still talking.
But yeah, I love it. I feel like it's really powerful, the whole thing that he did this to his wife. Like he put this idea that basically made her do this, like this isn't real. Like I'm gonna mess
Yeah.
with your mind. I do Inception to you. And that you don't find that out for most of the movie. That he placed this idea there that made her do this. It's really messed up.
It's a good twist as well, right? Like you're expecting there to be something more like, I don't know, the heist to go really wrong, and it sort of does with Mole coming in, but that's the reveal is like, oh, Cobb screwed this whole thing up, so it's actually his own problem. It's his own doing. It's like, oh, that's that complicates things. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
So busted.
Like for most of the movie, I'm thinking, is she like existing in some other shared plane that they're all in together? Like how is she appearing? But yeah, it makes total sense that it's his guilt coming forward.
It's just
like,
his guilt. Yeah. Like it's just all these big conversations that he has with Mole. It's just therapy for him. He's just like going through it in his head.
Is this Hans Zimmer's best score?
Yes.
Oh, he's got a lot of good ones. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Like Lion King,
Like it's good.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
But I think, but you can say, if someone says what's Hans Zimmer music, you can just say and everyone knows what you mean. Everyone goes, oh yeah,
that was
he did
perfect.
Inception.
That was perfect.
I've studied it.
It gets more intense with Interstellar, but there's some great tracks in Interstellar. There is. He didn't do Prestige, did he? I don't think he did.
No, I didn't. I looked at it. Yeah.
It's something I noticed. Like Prestige has got a couple of really good musical moments, but it's very understated. And then I realized, like, man, Hans Zimmer is not a like a lot of composers are kind of like
themes. Like you hear that theme, you know that movie straight away.
And it really depends on the film you make. Like Nolan wants films that are an experience, so it's perfect to have Hans Zimmer making this. But like a lot of composers will make music that doesn't stand out in the same way. They make it that sort of just fits in and kind of enhances the experience. And that's what with the Prestige was like the music in the Prestige, because I was listening to it the whole time, like looking for it. It's like, yeah, it's very understated. And then this comes along and it's like, oh no, Hans Zimmer he's telling you that he's doing it.
Then he tells you even more in the next movie we'll talk about. We ready for it?
To be fair, I can't even remember Tenet's like the score in Tenet either. Like,
yeah, because it's all a dumpster fire.
Yep.
All right, Interstellar. A team of explorers travel through a wormhole in space in an attempt to ensure humanity's survival.
That's it.
That's all I've got for you from IMDb. Enough, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
Look, Conan, you make me want to hate this movie, but I didn't hate it that much. I must admit, the only people I've heard really hate on this movie have the same last name as you, Conan.
Really?
It's only people from your family that I've heard
Which one?
dislike this movie.
The oldest,
and the one just older than you also.
Really?
I've heard them talk about how much they dislike this movie.
Bunch of cranky curmudgeons.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to double down on a bit then and go, this is the worst movie ever made.
Got to keep the family opinion up.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to get famous.
Conan,
no, look,
you talk first. Because like this, I every time I think of Interstellar or even hear the score, I think Conan hates this. Like, Conan does not like this film.
You just think that I sit there going, oh, everything people love sucks.
I remember a text of you just being like Hans Zimmer and hating on Hans Zimmer for some reason. I just remember coming out of Interstellar and like texting you about it and you hating on it or something. I was just like, oh man.
I'm going to start sending audio files to you guys, just me making sound effects from this movie. Good idea. Look, all right. I made a note or two in this film. Watching it this time, the first thing I really did say is like, look, it's not bad. Okay, this is a bit that I've committed to, and I'm gonna always double down. So if anyone asks, it sucks. I hate it. Worst movie ever made. But if I'm being completely objective, it's fine. It is fine.
There's some great.
So here's all right. Let me spiel. Let me do two things. It is. There are some great things in this movie. There are some great ideas. There's some of the best sort of the best things about filmmakers in this movie, like the ambition, the engaging with like these broad philosophical ideas. Like all great filmmakers sort of make a sci-fi movie eventually. Kubrick, obviously, 2001 is widely considered the best movie ever made, which is a weird thing, but whatever. But everyone loves that movie. Kubrick is like a visionary guy for making it. I've talked to you, I think about Ad Astra and how I think Ad Astra is a masterpiece. Like sci-fi is the thing that a lot of filmmakers I think go to when they're really kind of getting existential. And so I think that's cool. I wish more films did it. But I think this movie is where he loses the ability to tie them together. So he spends like the story behind this film, he spent all this time researching the science. He got some scientician to come in and talk about it. He studied quantum physics. He probably claims he got a PhD, knowing Nolan. And so all this happened, like he did a lot of research, and there is a lot of this movie is spent just trying to explain that and going, what happens with this quantum physics theory? He goes, well, that's how we explain this. And it's like, okay, I didn't need that, but you want to tell us that you know what you're talking about. But not that, and the emotional story on a separate tangent is actually really good. I think some of the moments of emotion here are the best he's done, like the scene of Cooper driving away from the farm.
Yeah,
I got a bit teary because now as a father, as the father of a daughter, I'm like, that is painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
I can't imagine like that. It breaks my heart to like put myself. Obviously, he's in a whole different mindset, but just like the thought of like, if you have an argument with your kid or something, and then they go to sleep, you already feel bad. But like to leave the planet for maybe 30 years after them not talking to you after a fight, it's the worst feel. I can't imagine.
It's gonna be rough, yeah. And like, the scene where he sees the footage and he sees them growing up. It's like,
Yep.
Broke me.
That stuff is really powerful.
Yep.
The problem is that this movie though then tries to go, how do we reconcile this together? How do these fit? And they do not fit. They fit by him saying it's love. They fit by having a long speech going, love is just something we can quantify which we can't. Love is something that we can quantify, which transcends space and time. It's a fifth dimension. I'm like, that's your fucking cop out. Are you serious?
Yeah. This is what the whole ending of this movie relies on. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And
it's love. You don't understand.
No, I don't. No one does. And the third act, I think it falls off the rails really pretty badly.
Yep.
But besides that, that's the thing. You can see him becoming a split personality because he's like, I want to make this emotional story, and I know I have to, and that I believe that. And he's like, but I want to make a high concept sci-fi. And the thing, sorry, I'm really rambling on here, but I have a lot of feelings about Interstellar. The thing that I think makes films like 2001 work is that they're actually emotionally detached. They've got a very cold assessment of it, and that works because it's this broader philosophical idea void of emotion. And I think Ad Astra works because Ad Astra is purely emotional. It doesn't bother trying to be, here's the hard science of it. I think Nolan tries to have his cake and eat it too, and it just doesn't work. I think he should have either stopped trying to explain, or he should have cut the whole love story, family story out, and it would have been a better movie. And to have a movie that's like its identity lives and dies on the unity of its science and its love story, really it irks me. And that's why I have strong feelings. Like, this movie's not bad, but whenever I think about it, I'm like, it pisses me off because it should be better. It should be one of the greatest movies ever made.
So here's the thing. Like, I enjoy this film. I really do like it. I don't think, I don't love it. Like, I can see its issues. I really I watched this at IMAX in Sydney.
That would have been cool.
Had like such a trippy moment walking out of it, like, because obviously it's like a very mind-bending movie, and we had this moment where we walked out and we're going down a staircase, and even though we only went up like 1 or 2 staircases to get into the theater, it felt like we walked down like 10, and we're like, what the we both, like, me and my wife looked at each other like, are we in like a time,
you're in a
what's going on? Yeah, it was really weird. But I feel like in hearing you talk about that, this film would be so much stronger if at the end, he disengages to give her the final push to go to the third planet, and he maybe sees some weird shit in the middle of the black hole, and then he's gone. And the people on Earth left to starve and suffer, and it's horrible,
No,
but
or they get saved. They get saved, but not through
but not Murph, like
not by manipulating the bookshelf in the past or whatever. Like.
Yeah, that's where it's pretty honest. But maybe generations from now, like people that have been bred up from Bran's planet, like that she's raised up, like they can go back to Earth. But
TARS sends some information back to Earth somehow. Like, you don't have to explain it. He's in a black hole. He's done the calculations. The information's gone.
That's
done.
TARS goes in there, so it's like TARS does drop down. He's like, "Oh, try and send the data through." They send the data through. Oh, perfect. That's what we need to figure out, this gravity thing to get everyone off of here. And then they go to Bran's planet to be with her.
Yeah.
Way more, like, the whole bookcase thing is just weird, because, like, okay, and we planted this thing here for you to see, like, us from the future. It gets very much where I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to watch a YouTube thing to tell me what happened here.
Like,
what's going on?
Let's figure that out, right? So humans from the future have figured out a way to create time as a physical realm that can be manipulated,
black hole that they can place.
Well, so time is the fourth dimension. So just like we can see the third, the second, and the first dimension, people have surpassed the fourth dimension in the future, so they can see it as a physical place, build it as a physical place that they can bring Matthew McConaughey into, which he can then use to manipulate the past, because gravity travels through time.
Yeah, why? Okay,
It's already nonsense. Like, why not just do something that doesn't have to be explained the way they explain this? I don't know.
this is my thing. I don't know. I haven't researched it, so I don't know if the theory is sound. But this thing, I'm like, why can gravity travel through time? How can they? Yeah, how can they create this realm? But more importantly, why, if they can create the dimension as a physical one, why haven't they just like saved humans? Why did like we need to let McConaughey come and do
That's right.
this?
Why didn't they do it themselves?
I don't understand.
It's because of love. That doesn't make any sense.
Love, Murph. But the thing is, the rest of this movie I really like. Yeah,
Yes.
there's exposition and there's a lot of science talk, but hey, I loved Cosmos, so I'm like interested by that. I'm like, yeah, cool. Explain it to me. How does a black hole work? Show me. Like, use a piece of paper. But
We've seen that so many times.
I know it's so bad. I really like the Earth, like it's
Yes.
post-apocalyptic, the dust, and even I forgot about it. Like at the school, we're like, oh, that's like old Federation's like textbooks.
Yeah.
Like they're talking about that myth about the moon landing, and like we
Yeah.
can't, and we don't have, like, you know, basically like just burn those books. You're not allowed to. It was what do you call it? Like a fake thing to try and
fake
bankrupt
news.
the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
I feel like that's only gotten more poignant since this movie was made too.
Yeah. Yes,
like
100%.
the climate catastrophe that we're facing,
Yep.
you know, the rewriting of history in a lot of cases, and the burning of books, like all that is just, it's nearly come to pass almost, right? Like, yeah, I really love that vision of the future. I really love these solar unmanned drones just flying around forever with no purpose.
Aimlessly. Yeah.
Like I don't know, it's just cool. Like you know, humanity was at this height and they've just dropped right down, and there's still these remnants of the past just flying around for no reason. That's great. Love that.
NASA pilots and engineers are now farmers, like growing corn.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yep, that's what we do. Oh, your son's this, he's going to be a farmer. Like, we need farmers. We don't need people like you. We need farmers.
Unless he's the smartest person in his grade, he's going to be a farmer. And it's like,
Yep.
it is like it's a really cool take on it. Like, it's a really great look at at a dystopia, at a dying world. It's not nuclear. It's not raiders marauding. It's just dust storms and blight.
Yep.
And again, there's just, it irks me. There's too much exposition here. Like, he goes to length explaining the blight and, you know, using all these examples so we understand clearly there is a blight about potatoes. You don't really, like, you don't need that. It would have been better to just let some of it come up naturally. Like, have the drone be explained very briefly as a solar drone, rather than like, oh, remember when the Indian government went down and now we don't have any government there, so now they're flying around forever, right, Murph? You know, Murph?
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
I think most of the exposition you need is in that little documentary snippet they show at the start. Like, I like that as the framing for the start of this movie and how it comes back into place at the end. That's like cool. Looking at how the Earth used to be, and that nearly gives you enough information. Like, he's talking about how, you know, we could only grow corn. Like, they explain all that stuff. You don't need as much as they give you by any means.
No, you really don't. But yeah, some of the visuals though are great. Like the baseball game when you see the dust storm on the horizon.
Yep.
And just the dust everywhere when they're prepping for dinner. It's just kind of
turning everything upside down and flipping it over.
You know, it's like they've got to mask up when he's like, okay, mask up. I'm like, oh, look, it's
that got pretty poignant in 2020.
Yeah.
You know,
the storm of COVID. I better mask up for a few years.
But it's like this stuff that's cool. Like, the whole thing about, you know, like, he lost his wife because he was like, we didn't have any MRI machines because we didn't have doctors because everyone's just a farmer now. Like, maybe if we focused on technology and all this. You have John Lithgow. I love John Lithgow.
I was gonna say he's a great grumpy old man in this movie.
Yeah.
The casting is really good in this.
Conan, what's your thoughts on Matthew McConaughey?
No, I love Matthew McConaughey. So Matthew McConaughey is like, Nolan has never once had a problem with casting things. He's got a great eye for talent. And Matthew McConaughey, like, I like seeing directors work with the hottest actor of that season.
Yeah.
And 2014, you know, McConaughey was coming off his True Detective. He'd won the Oscar just beforehand for Dallas Buyers Club.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, he was the hottest thing, and he's really good in this. Like, he's the perfect, you know, he's the perfect smart kick. Like, he sounds like he's but he's a genius, and like, no one can do this better than McConaughey.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I could listen to him sit on a porch drinking beer and just reminisce about the old days, about we used to look up at the stars and wonder, and
It's
now
so
we just
good.
look at the dirt. And I'm like,
I'm
ah,
like,
this is great.
yeah, his voice is like Tennessee whiskey, that man.
Yeah.
But and like his emotion, like the emotion he brings out in those performances is fantastic. Like he hits that out of the park. Yeah, I can't fault him at all for it. He really carries this film. Like with if his performance was worse, this movie would really suffer. But I
for
think
sure.
let's compare it to Anne Hathaway, who's a great actress, but I don't think her character's good in this at all.
Doesn't have a lot to do.
She has a lot of crying to do,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's not good, Nolan.
He has
Like,
a
I
good
don't know,
name, though.
What's her name?
Brand.
Brand. Now,
Okay.
I was talking to Griner the other day, and
I was going to say,
yeah, okay.
while we're talking about casting,
Yes.
is Matt Damon the best cameo in film history in this movie?
Yes. I think
So
I think Matt Damon is actually the king of the cameo.
Might be, but it just works
think it
so well
started
in this
here, though.
movie. Like
No,
it
it's not-
really.
but do you remember that movie where he's Euro Trip where Scotty doesn't know? Matt Damon,
true.
but that's funny. But yeah, but this is
great cameo.
It just works really well to like put you off guard. Like you're expecting this great man. It's Matt Damon. He's like a hero and everything.
Yeah,
His name's Dr.
And-
Man.
His name is Dr. Man. Subtle.
And then he's a total douche.
It is it's a really
coward.
it's a really great rug pull. Like I knew this scene, but I was watching it again. I was sort of like thinking more about the structure, and it was a really cool like way to have the twist here, or like raise the stakes and be like, this trip's going to go wrong, not just because space is cold and unforgiving, and there's planets where there's giant tidal waves, but because humans freak out in the face of this stuff. Humans don't like the existential crisis that we all face eventually. And Dr. Man himself faces this and is a cow, like and trembles. And I'm like, that's really cool. And yeah, having Matt
worst
Damon,
enemy.
because Matt Damon is the best of us. I don't think anyone can get better.
Yeah.
So I agree. I love having him in that role. It's perfect.
They should have had Ben Affleck on the other planet.
Yeah. Just his dead body floating in the waves or something.
His dead body. Just his dead body. With
do you
Ben
guys think about
Hathaway
the different-
mourning him.
That would have been great.
What did you guys think about the different planets? Like, I really enjoy the time dilation. Like, they go into it probably a little too much, but the time dilation's a lot of fun. These giant waves, even though old mate doesn't get in the ship for some reason, he just stands there and watches the wave kill him. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
That annoyed me.
The water planet gives me anxiety, man. Like the waves, it's like holy shit. It feels tense when and she's like, it's the mountains in the distance and running. It's like and up mountains, Brian. But it's brutal. I wouldn't want to live on any of them.
No.
The ice one where the clouds are ice and they crash into the cloud and it breaks it. I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Really cool
that's
visual
cool.
thing.
It's cool, very video gamey, right? There's the water planet, and then the ice planet, and then the stone planet.
Yeah.
No, I forgot how the time dilation. I forgot how big of a deal that was in the movie. And watching it again, like when they see Ralm, again another very character. But seeing him again, and it's like he's kind of this almost like shivering old man. It's geez, that's poignant.
And he's just like, I waited for years. He's like, he's gone crazy, kind of. You're like, man, you poor dude. Like, I remember the cinema when it opens up and he's like standing there. He's got like a robe on, like a bed robe, and I just remember people being like, oh, this poor dude. And he's like, why didn't you sleep? He's like, I didn't think you were coming back. It's been 27 years. What the hell?
No point to waste my life. Yeah, like that's really powerful. That stuff.
Yeah, and then you get the video diaries and like all the life that you missed out on, basically.
Yeah, so good.
Which
so good.
Had when I first saw it's emotional, but it didn't hit me. Like I think being a parent now, you have that thought of what would it be like to miss all of this, and you get it for he goes from Timothy Chalamet to bloody Casey Affleck, and it's like oh man, and it's like just his acting that whole time.
That scene is just his face for the longest time.
It's just him reacting to audio.
Because you hear it happening and you hear them growing and you just watch his his entire life flash before his eyes and he just breaks down. Like, shit.
It's brutal. It's brutal. Yep. And then just one call from Murph. after all those years, and she's just like basically like, you were meant to be here today. I'm as old as you are. It's like, oh, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
But
Can we talk about? Is he though? Is Cooper the worst father in the world? He does not give a shit about his son.
He's a little bit up there, yeah.
I was gonna say, you guys only have one kid at the moment, so it's like, you know, you can have favorites, but he's clearly got a favorite.
Look, were you resonating with this? You were like, yeah, I do hate one of my kids.
No, not at all. No, it's just so funny. He's just like has this big emotional goodbye to Murph. Goes out, he like smacks his kid on the back. He's like, all right, have fun.
He's like, you can have my truck.
You be good. Have my truck. Don't crash it. See you later.
And there's that scene where John Lithgow's even like, "Oh, Tom will be fine, but you've got to make sure everything's okay."
Got to make it all right with Murph.
I'm like, you're shit, McConaughey.
And then he grows up to be Casey Affleck, who's just angry at the world. Just like, no, don't save my kids from choking on dust.
Yeah, I don't want you examining my wife in case she's sick.
Yeah,
how dare you?
Doesn't do a great job there. It's weird. Even when Coop's back though, he's like, "Where's Murph? I got to see Murph." Never asks about Tom.
He died a long time ago. Doesn't care.
I guess. At least ask after him, right?
Yeah,
Where's my
true.
other child?
Hey, Tom kept calling, man. Tom, he had dad issues. Obviously, he kept calling him.
That's it. Yeah, that's also powerful when there's like we just had a baby Jesse, and then the next call is just like
everything. Don't even say that he passed. He's just like, it's been tough. Everything with with Jesse. Yeah. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We get,
you continue.
I was gonna say, like, Matt Damon's a great cameo, but obviously we got Topher Grace, so
yeah,
just shows up, man. He's Doctor.
3 seconds, yeah.
I'm coming around on Topher Grace.
Yeah,
he's good in small doses, I think.
Yep. Yeah,
I agree.
Now, I've always had a problem with this movie. They choose to send Case to the planet to live with when Tars is clearly the superior robot. Like, why would Brand choose to have Case live with them over Tars? Somebody tell me this.
Can I ask? Because I must have missed this. I thought Case was the ship itself.
No, Case is
another one of Tars. There's two of them in the. But that's the thing. You think of Tars whenever you think of that. Right. Do you guys like Tars and like those robots?
Yes, I really enjoy the design.
Yeah, the design's weird though. Does it make sense?
Not completely.
Yeah, okay.
It makes sense to the point where it's really like function over form. Like you see these Boston Dynamics robots today, and they kind of look humanoid.
Yeah.
But that might not be the most efficient way to make a robot. Like you just want a robot to do the things it needs to do. So this is like a Swiss Army knife robot, basically, which I like. I enjoy that.
That's the thing. When they just turn like, okay, now we're going fast.
I'm going to turn into an Asterix and roll around. Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, cool. They can just do whatever they want. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was also shouldn't you have a hand, like at least one hand or something? I would think, or a gripper.
It can like roll out and like those arms can change. Like
picks them up.
Turn into arms. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. True. Yeah. Good point. Tars is one of those great character robots. Like he's got a real personality.
He's got the humor setting and everything. Yeah, it's good. But again, having to live your life with Case, no. You send Tars with the person who's going to live. The person who's dying can have Case. Doesn't matter.
Case gets abandoned into the black hole. Like, my Case hardly knew you.
Case is definitely the Tom. And Tars is the
Murph. Yeah. I really like, and I don't think I picked up on it the first time I watched it, with Matt Damon being like, oh yeah, I destroyed the robot. Like he was being weird. So don't bring him back to life. Don't bring him back to life.
That.
Yeah.
Because Tars is like, something's up with that. Like, what happened to him? Like, what's going on over here? But I was like, nah, just ignore that. Anyway, here's my awesome results of this planet. Look how awesome this planet is. I love Matt Damon like narrating McConaughey's death when he's like dying. He's just like, you feel it, don't you? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I thought I could watch this, but I can't. I really can't. He's like,
he's so pathetic.
He's like such a coward. He's just like, oh shit, this sucks. I'm sorry, man. Like, reminds me of Morty. I don't know. Like, you can do it. You can do it, man. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good.
That scene with the lock engaging is really tense. The music, and you can just like the little thing just not connecting properly, and you're just waiting. And I love there's a few spots early on in the movie, but like the use of sound where he's just like, oh, there's a moment, and then it just gets sucked out and just everything starts blowing up and all that
goes
stuff.
silent.
But
yeah, the playing with music like that, like Hans Zimmer's score compared to like the silence of space.
Yeah.
When it goes to outside the ship and it's just silence,
it just cuts off.
It's really, really cool. I like it.
Played to great effect.
Yeah.
You also get the great. I really enjoy where he's like spinning, trying to line up the two ships, and
the music's all tense. That's so cool.
It's not possible. No, it's necessary. Like some good lines.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of memes of this movie. Like the score from this movie is a big TikTok sound. Anytime there's like something grand, that's the soundtrack people put on it on TikTok.
Yeah,
really?
like the
yeah
organs or whatever. It's like
Oh, okay.
And the where he says this move's going to cost us 10 years or something like that. People use that in memes a lot. I've seen that as a meme.
Yeah,
Matthew McConaughey's face when he's crying about his kids. See that as a meme all the time. The spinning. I've seen the spinning so many times as well.
Yeah.
Which one? Sorry.
Where he's trying to line things up, the spinning. Like I've seen people put that sound over like washing machines and shit. Like it's real stupid, but
where
that's a meme culture.
And it gets all and it's like, I've seen great ones. I think it was during crypto where people was like watching myself sell my Bitcoin at like $10, and it's like, no, Merv, don't let me leave, Merv. He's like watching himself, like watching me 7 years ago make this biggest mistake of my life. I'm like, no, stop.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's good.
So sounds like a good movie, Ken.
Look, do you want me to ramble for another 20 minutes? I can. I can repeat my point.
I also like when he reunites with Murph, and she's like, "I've moved on. I've got my own family now. You need to go."
She's like, "I knew you for 8 years. I've known these people for 82."
Also, but very unsatisfying.
It is a little unsatisfying. Yeah.
She's just like, "Yeah, you have a life," and he's like, I went to a black hole for you to come back. At least spend some time. Introduce me to my grandkids, Murph. Come on. She's like, no. These aren't your people.
She's like, go find Brand.
Yeah, I'm like, Murph, bad daughtery.
When you consider the amount of time he was asleep, he was probably gone for like 6 months, his time, right? Like it's been a lot of years for her, but it's not a lot of time for him.
No.
That's rough.
I think she could have done a bit more.
He gives up too easy. He gives up really easy.
He does. But I guess he's just thinking about Brand. He's like, Anne Hathaway's all alone on that planet.
We need to repopulate.
Insert meme of that guy rubbing his hands together.
And just one more thing on Matt Damon. I just love when he starts headbutting the glass. He's just like, there's a 50-50 shot this will kill you. And he's like, best odds I've had in years. Just headbutts him, breaks the glass. He's just like ready. He's just like, no, I'm like, no.
He's a desperate
whatever.
man.
Whether I die or you die, we're doing this.
Yeah. No, it's good.
All right. Well, that's the 3 movies. Is there anything else anyone wants to add before we rank them?
Yes, let's rank them.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'll go first because I think mine will be controversial. Prestige is the best. Inception, Interstellar. It's very close between the top 2, honestly. Like another day, I'd probably put them the other way around. But I have a lot of love for the Prestige, and I think it's underrated overall.
Look, what do you think? Interstellar 1, 2, and 3.
So, Grant, you think he got worse as a filmmaker as it went on?
I mean, technically, probably Inception is his best film, but for me, I have a lot of
something about
the Prestige.
Yeah, I get it. It's Inception number 1 for me. Ooh. I do like Interstellar.
Do it.
Like that's fine. You can put that number 2. You
just have to justify it.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. Those 2, I do like Interstellar. I feel like it's got more issues than Prestige. Like you said, Prestige is a tight film. I think Prestige is a better film. I probably enjoy Interstellar more.
Interstellar definitely it has much more awe-inspiring, and I'm like, you react more to Interstellar with everything.
It's what I relate Nolan, as in Christopher Nolan, to. It's like that's this.
And there's more scenes of beauty and like majestic shots. And watching it again, there's a bunch of moments of like, damn, that looks good.
Yeah.
And I just like watching this can be a pleasure because there's so many good scenes, and some of the
black hole thing is still awesome. Like them really first going into it looks really cool.
Yeah. But yeah. I think I would put it as Interstellar would be the worst. On this rewatch, I was like, is Prestige his best movie? and I think it's I think it could be a contender.
Then you watched Inception, and you're like, nah, Inception
No,
isn't overrated. It really is one of the best movies.
like yeah,
of all
I
time.
did have that thought for sure, but I think I just think it's like if it was just Inception versus Prestige, I would probably say Prestige, but Inception is like this combination of it's the better of the three in terms of just how it stands in his body of work.
Mm.
And I think I
Fair
can't
enough.
kind of separate from like who is Nolan as a filmmaker, as an auteur. I'm like, well, he's the guy who made Inception.
Yeah.
And Inception is probably more valuable and just as bigger things, but Prestige would be very close, very, very close second.
Since obviously this is not a very traditional trilogy, because I know you're a fan of one of these, if Dunkirk and Tenet were in here, where would you put them?
Dunkirk, that's the weird. No,
No, but you're a big Dunkirk fan.
Just
a great
rate all of Nolan's films, please.
yeah,
That's pretty much what you're asking.
Let's just rate all Christopher Nolan. No, because I don't know. I'd probably have Dunkirk as fourth, and then Tenet as fifth.
I mean,
Just
Tenet's
personally.
definitely the worst.
Tenet's definitely the worst. Yeah,
Even up,
I don't like Tenet that much. I like Robert Pattinson.
I like
But-
things about Tenet. It's just
it's cool
like
stuff.
we're talking about plot holes. That movie's got them.
like Dunkirk is just a different. Like it's like the Prestige. Prestige stands out from his other movies because it doesn't feel like the same high concept epic sort of stuff.
That's the
And-
only reason I just wanted to bring up. Sorry, Granny, you haven't seen Dunkirk, have you?
I have seen it.
Oh, okay.
I might not have been under great circumstances or something. Like I don't barely remember it.
Yeah, okay. True.
Yeah, I think Dunkirk is really different. Like it's historical, it's grounded, it's it also doesn't have an emotional point of view because it's like war is the
It's
emotional
just
point
war.
of
It's
view.
just war. Yeah, from different
And so
points.
it's really different to other stuff. I love Dunkirk, but I can't compare them because
No,
it's just vastly different. Yeah,
fair enough. But yeah, Tenet last.
Tenet and Inception are sister films, and Tenet's a big pile of crap.
Yeah. Tenet's Tom.
I was so excited.
tough.
I was so excited for Tenet too.
Same.
well, me
Come
too.
back to the cinema. It was
Yeah.
like really this thing. I was like, yes, with a Nolan film, this is gonna be dope. But no, it wasn't. Wasn't
No.
dope. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for the good, the bad, and the worst. Next week, next fortnight, we are going to be watching Wakanda Forever, the new Black Panther movie. So join us for that. We'll take a look at those two movies, see how that trilogy carries on without Chadwick Boseman. That'll be.
Are we watching the
interested to
first Black
see.
Panther?
We might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah. It'll be
I
interesting.
mean, we can't just talk about one. We could, but
Yeah.
no, we'll talk about the two of them. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this podcast, you might enjoy our podcast about games, Bonus XP. It's a very regular podcast. You'll see it there every 2 weeks. But we do a bit of video content with that one. If you enjoy hearing us talk about movies, you might hear it like us talking about games. Please rate and rank us and subscribe to us on all your services, particularly Spotify. Give us 5 stars there. That would be lovely. This podcast was brought to you by The Taste of Iron by C.V. Clarke, a very, very good book. Check it out on Amazon. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Don't let me leave, Marv.